Welcome to another deep dive. Today, we're pulling back the curtain on something that might seem purely administrative, but trust me, it reveals a tremendous amount about how something, massive and complex like running elections actually works on the ground. We're diving into KPU Decree number 1257 year 2024 from the Indonesian General Election Commission, the KPU.
That's right. And this decree, it isn't about the results themselves or even like campaign rules. It's the detailed blueprint for how the KPU organizes its official records and documents across the entire archipelago, really from the central office in Jakarta right down to every provincial and regency or city KPU office.
Okay, so our mission is to unpack this document. Think of it as finding the instruction manual for the KPU's internal information engine, maybe. We want to understand the system that manages just this vast amount of paperwork and digital records generated by this enormous institution.
Exactly. And the decree itself gives us the context. In the Menimbang section, which is essentially the considering or rationale part, it states this update was necessary to refine and adjust the system based on recent organizational changes within the KPU, which were outlined in an earlier regulation. It also acknowledges the previous coding regulations were, outdated. So it's about keeping the system current with how they actually operate now.
Right. So while archive, classification, and document coding might sound like the title of a nap-inducing lecture, stick with us. Understanding the system offers a unique window into the sheer scale and meticulous administrative foundation required to run elections and manage a body like the KPU across Indonesia's thousands of islands. It's the silent, invisible backbone of the entire operation.
Okay, let's unpack this hidden world. Absolutely. So the first major component this decree establishes is the Kode klasifikasi arsip. You can think of that as the Archive Classification Code System. Arsip just means official records or archives. This system uses combinations of letters and numbers to categorize, basically every piece of official documentation.
And the purpose behind that, is it just filing?
Well, it's the practical stuff. Yeah, helping them arrange, manage, secure, and, crucially, retrieve all those records efficiently. It also links documents to archive retention schedules, which dictate, how long different types of records must be kept.
Ah, okay. So it's about life cycle management, too.
Precisely. The decree divides everything into two main buckets, klasifikasi arsip substantif and klasifikasi arsip facilitatif. Let's maybe call them the core business archives and the supporting function archives.
Yeah.
Just to make it clear.
So substantive must be the actual election stuff then, the core mission. Exactly. Klasifikasi arsip substantif covers the KPU's core mission, everything directly related to conducting elections, whether it's a national general election, which they call pemilu, or regional local elections, pemilihan. The main codes here really reflect the life cycle of an election.
Okay, like what?
Well, you've got PP for Persiapan Pemilu atau Pemilihan, that's preparation.
Preparation makes sense.
Right. Then PL, Pelaksanaan Pemilu atau Pemilihan, execution.
Execution.
Following that is PY, Penyelesaian Pemilu atau Pemilihan, completion.
Completion. Got it.
And there's also PA, Penggantian Antar Waktu, which is interim replacement.
Interim replacement. For filling vacant legislative seats outside of a general election, right?
That's the one. And if you look at Lampirin, I think of this as the detailed appendix or list in the decree, you see how these main categories break down further. For preparation, PP, this isn't just a broad heading. It includes codes covering everything from planning and budgeting,
Standard stuff.
setting up the organizational structure for the election, conducting voter education and socialization programs, and logistics. I saw that mentioned. That must be huge.
Oh, definitely. The decree has specific codes for logistics for the national Pemilu and the regional Pemilihan. And it gets really granular. It covers documentation of needs for election materials, setting standards for those materials, managing their administration and allocation, overseeing distribution, and even handling storage, like PP.08.1 through PP.08.5 for Pemilu logistics.
Wow. Okay. So it really maps the logistical journey of ballot boxes and forms and everything.
It does. Then moving to execution, PL, the codes cover processes like candidate registration and verification, updating voter data,
Crucial stuff.
managing campaign finance reports, and yes, the incredibly detailed work of vote counting and recapitulation. Nomination processes and determining the final results also fall under this phase's codes, like PL.01.8 for counting and PL.02.7 for results.
It's striking how these codes just lay out the entire election timeline, capturing the administrative trail of every major step. It's like an administrative map.
Pretty much. Down to the completion phase, PY, where you find codes related to election disputes, whether it's constitutional court or other levels. That's PY.01.1 for PEMBLU disputes. Also, financial reporting after the election, PY.01.2, the actual process of managing the archives created during the election, PY.01.3, and the final evaluation and reporting, PY.01.5.
And that PAW code.
Right, PY.01 specifically covers the administrative processes for those interim replacements for members of the national and regional parliaments, DPR, DPD, and DPRD. So that's the election side, the core business.
Okay, so that's the KPU's primary function, but running elections requires running a large, complex institution itself, right?
Exactly. And that's where the facilitative classification or supporting function archives comes in. Klasifikasi, arsip, facilitative.
Right, this covers all the administrative work that any large organization needs to do, regardless of its specific mission, HR, finance, legal, IT, building management, that kind of thing.
Precisely. The decree lists codes for planning, PR, legal HK, organization, ORT, archives and general admin, TU, household affairs, RT, human resources, SDM, finance, KU, public relations, HM, IT, TIK, procurement, KPJ, and, well, quite a few more. This section of the decree, Lamper and I, again, really reveals the sheer breadth of internal operations needed just to support the main election work.
Okay, let's maybe explore a couple of these just to get a feel for the level of detail. Legal, HK, for instance. What's under there?
Yeah, it doesn't just cover their own internal regulations like KPU regulations, HK.02, or various types of decisions, HK.03. It includes codes for managing legal aid, consultation, and advocacy involving different types of courts, civil courts, HK.07.1. It also covers cases handled by the Ethics Council, the DKPP, HK.07.4, dealing with BOASLU, the election supervisory body, HK.07.6, and even coordination with law enforcement agencies like the police, prosecutor's office, or the KPK Anti-Corruption Commission, HK.07.7.
So it really shows the extensive legal environment they have to navigate.
It does. And household affairs, RT, is another area where you see, maybe surprisingly, a lot of detail. This isn't just managing the office buildings. It covers everything from asset inventory, literally tracking all their physical property, RT.01, to official travel, RT.02, vehicle management, RT.03, building and garden maintenance, RT.04, utilities like electricity and water, RT.05, RT.06.
And even office security. So they have codes for things like, guard lists, incident reports, visitor permits.
Yes, exactly. RT.09 covers security and order, and RT.09.1 breaks down into guard duty schedules, incident notes, visitor registration permits, things like that. And RT.09.2 is for reporting losses, damage, or accidents. It really highlights the day-to-day operational management needed for hundreds of offices nationwide.
Human resources, SDM, must be massive given the number of staff and, all the temporary personnel involved in elections.
Oh, it's incredibly comprehensive. The HR codes cover the entire employee life cycle. Think about it. Recruitment, SDM.02, career development, SDM.03, managing ethics, discipline, and pensions, SDM.04. It includes codes for employee transfers or mutations, SDM.05.
And the administrative side, like employee ID documents, benefits, that sort of thing?
Yes, employee administration, SDM.06, includes details like ID documents, but it goes even deeper into welfare services. This covers everything from health insurance, housing, social aid, even sports activities, uniforms, and, believe it or not, funeral services for employees under SDM.06.7.
Wow. Funeral services. So the administrative trail literally follows an employee's welfare from recruitment to,
Yeah, it captures that level of detail. It also includes codes for managing asset declarations like LHKAS, SKP, and reporting, SDM.07, SDM.08, and maintaining incredibly detailed personnel files, both for permanent civil servants, ASN, under SDM.09, and KPU members themselves, SDM.10. These files, the codes list just a huge array of documents: promotion, proposals, performance targets, SKP, integrity packs, leave requests, marriage or divorce certificates, birth certificates, documentation for educational improvements, investigation results, and even paperwork for employees who are missing or have returned after an absence.
Yep. Finance covers budgeting planning, KU.01, formulation, KU.02, and execution, KU.03. Execution includes codes for documenting revenue, like taxes or non-tax state revenue or income from state asset management, KU.03.2. And then expenditure documents, payroll, travel claims, invoices, payment receipts, KU.03.3. It covers financial accountability reports, KU.03.3D, accounting documents, KU.03.3, and even the administration of state losses, KU.03.6. So these facilitative codes, They really paint a vivid picture of the extensive, detailed bureaucracy that's necessary just to support the KPU's core election task. It's far more than just election day logistics.
It really underscores that running elections relies on a fully functional, highly detailed government administrative body. It's not just about the voting.
Okay, so we've explored how they classify all these records, both the core election stuff and the support functions. The second major part of the decree is the pengkodean naskah dinas, the official document coding and numbering system. This is how individual pieces of paper or digital files get their unique identifier, right? Lampreer in the second and a third will lay out the rules for this.
That's it. This system takes the archive classification code we just discussed, the subject code, basically, and combines it with a code genus naskah dinas, an official document type code. These are usually separated by a hyphen in the document number.
So a document's number immediately tells you its general subject area and what kind of document it is, like a letter or a report or an order.
Precisely. Lampreer and Sick list the document types with their codes, things like SPT for Surat Perintah, order letter, ST for Surat Tugas, assignment letter, ND for Nota Dinas, which is like an internal memo, LP for Laporan report, BA for Berita Acara, official minutes, and KT for Surat Keterangan, certificate or statement.
Okay, and the numbering system adds even more information, right? I think you mentioned it identifies who sent it and where it came from.
Yes, exactly. It includes codes for the originating unit within the KPU structure. So whether it's a specific bureau, like Bureau Hukum, legal bureau is COS 08, or a center, like Pusat data center is 13 at the national level.
Yeah.
Or a section Bayesian or subsection Subasian at the provincial or region solicity level. Like the finance section at a Type A provincial KPU might be code 1.
And it includes regional codes too, to pinpoint the specific office location.
Right. These identify the specific KPU province or regency city office across the entire country.
Yeah.
Lampreer 2, section D, has this really extensive list. You see codes for every province and region city, like Provinsi ACH is 11, Kode Makassar is 7371, Jakarta Pusat is 3171. It just highlights the sheer geographical scope of the KPU's network.
Makes sense. And Lampreer in the third, that's the part that explains how these codes are all put together into the final unique document number.
Yes. The structure varies slightly depending on the level and maybe the type of document. But generally for internal documents at the national KPU level, you'll see something like document number archive, code type code, originating bureau, or center code year.
Okay. And maybe at the provincial or regency level, it incorporates that regional code. So it might look like document number archive, code type code, regional code, originating unit code within that office year. Something like that.
Broadly, yes. Though, as the decree itself notes, formal regulations, Parachikan KPU, and certain types of official decrees, keputusan KPU, often have a simpler number year document, like no more 1257 Tahun 2024 for this very decree.
Gotcha. So this detailed multi-component numbering system essentially creates a unique address for every single official document. It embeds its subject, type, originating office, location, and date right there in the number itself.
Exactly. It's a system designed for maximum traceability and organization across a huge, decentralized institution dealing with just a colossal volume of communication and records.
Okay, we've walked through the classification system and the numbering system. Pretty detailed stuff. But zooming out, what does understanding this incredibly detailed administrative framework mean for you, the listener? Why does it matter to know that the KPU tracks guard lists and funeral services with specific codes?
Well, I think it matters because it reveals the true scale and complexity involved in administering national elections for hundreds of millions of people across such a huge country. It shows you that what the public sees on election day or during the campaign is supported by this incredibly painstaking, meticulous administrative process happening constantly across thousands of offices. This decree really demonstrates the KPU's attempt to impose order on what would otherwise be an absolutely insurmountable administrative task managing potentially billions of documents generated over years.
Right. It's a system built for efficiency, yes, but also, maybe more importantly, for legal compliance and accountability. If every document is classified and numbered consistently, it creates a much clearer trail for audits, for legal challenges if they arise, for historical research later on, and just for ensuring records are kept or disposed of according to established rules. It's about building a reliable, auditable record of every official action, big or small.
Absolutely. Understanding this administrative backbone, it kind of pulls back the curtain on the operational reality. It shows you the layers upon layers of detailed work necessary just to support the democratic process, work that happens far, far away from the polling booths.
So, to sum up this deep dive then, We've explored KPU Decree 1257 2024, diving into their system for classifying archives and coding official documents. We saw how records are sorted into basically core election-specific tasks and these crucial supporting administrative functions. And we saw how a multi-layered numbering system creates a unique identifier for documents based on their subject, type, origin, and location right across Indonesia.
This complex system is, you could say, the silent engine designed to manage the vast ocean of information the KPU generates daily, ensuring records are organized and traceable when needed.
Okay, and here's something to maybe ponder as we wrap up. Given the immense volume and the sheer diversity of administrative tasks and documents involved in running elections across such a vast and decentralized country, does a highly detailed centralized coding and archiving system, like the one we just explored, primarily serve as a tool to ensure robust accountability and transparency through meticulous record keeping? Or is its main, perhaps more practical purpose simply to manage and make searchable and administrative workloads so massive it would just be chaos without such a rigid structure? Something to think about the next time you happen to see an official document number from an institution like this.
That's a compelling question, really, about the nature of large-scale administration itself.
That's it for this deep dive.